The Second Amendment, that is the law of the land, not some crazy rules that states came up with. Thank God for the Supreme Court. Thank God for President Trump making this Supreme Court what it is. He chose very well. The Second Amendment is the law of the land, not something called Sullivan's Law. Here in New York State, they came up with this more than 100 years ago. It basically said if you were carrying a gun, which is your constitutional right, you were violating the law. You had to have permission from the chief of police, and sometimes that chief would make you jump through all kinds of crazy hurdles. Sometimes when we read an opinion from the Supreme Court, it's hard to figure out. This one is not. It's actually very straightforward from Justice Thomas. Let's take it. All that we decide in this case is that the Second Amendment protects the right of law-abiding people to carry a gun outside the home for self-defense. Continues to say, and that the Sullivan Law, which makes that virtually impossible for most New Yorkers, is unconstitutional. It's true, you couldn't just get a license to carry easily at all. You had to jump through all kinds of crazy bureaucratic hurdles. Very few could actually get those licenses. So what was the result? Outlaws, criminals in New York have guns, and they have a lot of them, and they're using them more than ever before. Law-abiding folks who want guns, very, very hard to get. Law-abiding people with guns, very, very few, and they're almost never involved in crimes. Crime is expanding. People have a reasonable fear of crime, and we will be able to carry guns. Take a look at the statistics here in New York. Crazy, 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 38% up over the past 2 years. And 2 years ago, it was up. This is a bad situation. We can't count on law enforcement. Law enforcement, they have been chased and delegitimized and devalued by the mainstream media and Democrats. What happened in Uvalde? I'm not content to wait for the cops anymore. I don't know if they're going to come. I love cops, but they're under extraordinary pressure. This is how they treat police in New York.
She spit in his face. We recording it.
Everybody is rooting for the bad guys in this footage. Watch. They have no respect for law enforcement anymore. Everybody has told them about systemic racism, and you're not supposed to pay attention to a systemically racist institution. Now, those are lies, by the way, but they caught on. And it's really tough to be in a position where you have a family and you live in a place where you have a very legitimate fear of crime. So what does the left say about all this? They are outraged that we're going to have the right to carry again.
The Supreme Court of the United States of America has stripped away the state of New York's right and responsibility to protect its citizens. This decision isn't just reckless, it's reprehensible. It's not what New Yorkers want.
I believe that the Supreme Court's decision today defies logic in terms of what we know we are capable of doing with reasonable gun safety laws to secure the safety and the well-being of the people of our nation.
This decision has made every single one of us less safe from gun violence.
It's hard to imagine it getting any worse than it is right now. These folks, this guy and his friends, Democrats, they created this climate. They're responsible. You know, about 2 months ago, we had a horrible subway shooting in this town. The person who carried it out allegedly had lots of really bad thoughts about white people, seemed to be motivated by the current moment. Well, our silly governor, Kathy Hochul, well, she was grasping, had to say something, so she tried this.
We say no more mass shootings, no more disrupting lives, no more creating heartbreak for people just trying to live their lives as normal New Yorkers. It has to end, and it ends now.
I mean, really, she sounded like a neighborhood lady trying to chase kids off her lawn for running through her sprinkler. It was pathetic. Everybody noticed it. Now she has things to talk about. She loves talking about white supremacy. Now she points her finger at those evil Republicans. And You tell me, does this make any sense whatsoever?
I'm sorry this dark day has come. That we're supposed to go back to what was in place since 1788 when the Constitution of the United States of America was ratified. And I would like to point out to the Supreme Court justices that the only weapons at the time were muskets. I'm prepared to go back to muskets.
She's prepared to go back to muskets, not anytime soon. She's surrounded by bodyguards armed. So she went to the racetrack not too long ago to see the Belmont Stakes. Roll the videotape, please. We have it in slow motion for some reason. There's Kathy, and she is surrounded by detectives, state troopers, you name it. As she goes by, you'll see even more cops. Now, who the hell is she to tell me I can't have a weapon, which is my constitutional right? Look at it. Officer after trooper keeping an eye on that silly woman. That's kind of ridiculous, don't you think? Well, what do we expect from politicians? They're not going to focus on our problems. No, they're focusing on their own power. And how do they achieve that right now, especially if you're a Democrat? January 6th, all about January 6th. January 6th, the committee tried again. You know, people are really worried about the economy. Talk to some people who are retired or retiring, want to retire. What has happened to their portfolios, their 401ks? You know, it's not too long ago that people got a huge kick out of looking at their 401ks.
Your 401ks, how you doing? Pretty good, right? Pretty good. People tell me that their wives, their husbands, all of a sudden they've been running the 401ks for years, and they totally lost respect for, let's say, the husband. Totally lost respect. Now they think he's a financial genius because he's up 74%. She says, darling, I love you. You are the most incredible, brilliant financial mind. And you know what? If the Democrats get in, that's not going down by 50%. That's going down to nothing. It's going to be worthless.
Did he call it or what? You know, sometimes it seemed like he was exaggerating. No, he was on it, totally. So we have an economy that it looks like we're on the eve of a recession, right? We could be in the middle of one right now. Liz Cheney gets to talk about January 6th. Guess what? Liz Cheney doesn't have a care in the world. She is worth approximately $7 million. Her father, Dick Cheney, the former vice president, something like $90 million. With all that money, Liz can focus on her passions, which is a lot of weird stuff. All right, she represents Wyoming, right? How many people in Wyoming right now are talking about January 6th? I wonder, really, seriously. I would say the answer is 0.1. Nobody is. They are talking about gas prices, especially in a place like Wyoming, where you have to drive crazy distances. How about the total lack of law and order? This is a real problem. And you know what? We should have hearings that looks into this. I mean, the lies that were told, primarily people of color, about police has brought us to this horrible, horrible place. There are real problems in America and Congress ignoring them. How about transportation? Have you tried flying lately? You know, just a couple over the weekend, 3,500 flights were canceled, 7,300 delayed. That is a major problem. Now, what can the administration do about this? They've got Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg standing by, former mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Remember this about Secretary Pete. The only reason why he has that job is because of identity politics. He's gay. I don't care. Somebody does, and that's why he has the job. Because when he meets with these airline executives, these bigwigs, and he did, what the heck, what is he going to say? What does he know? Zero. He has never operated on this level. You need an industrialist. You need somebody who can literally make the trains run on time. So we are saddled with this very dangerous economy, inflation that we haven't seen in decades, gas prices out of control. It makes me wonder about Joe Biden and President Xi of China. What were those guys talking about for all those meetings? You know, Joe Biden brags, you've heard this, brags about how well he knows President Xi and how much time they spent together. You've seen this.
I spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has. Over 76 hours, we traveled 17,000 miles. I will note in my comment, I've met more with Xi Jinping than any other world leader has. I was in the Tibetan Plateau with Xi Jinping. I've traveled with him and spent more time with him than any other world leader has in China. I have spent, according to international folks, I spent more time with Xi Jinping, the leader of China, than any other world leader has. Over 76 hours. 9 of them on the telephone, the rest in person. Xi Jinping, the leader of China, who I've talked with, spent more time with than any other world leader has. Over 78 hours either in person or on the telephone with him.
Wow, that was just in 1 month. In the month of May, he was boasting about that. He's been doing it for years, by the way. So President Biden and President Xi, what were they talking about? All those conversations, because President Xi, he doesn't want good things for America. And right now, very bad things are happening in America. You know, President Trump met with Vladimir Putin once in person. The meeting was not long. They met alone. Just like President Biden met with President Xi, 17 hours, but this one was very brief. No note takers. Remember how the mainstream media got totally freaked out that President Trump was alone in a room with Vladimir Putin?
There were no note takers there for us to be able to really get a record of what actually happened in that meeting.
It appears there's no recording or no notes were taken of this conversation.
What absolutely defies explanation, Aaron, is why wouldn't the president want his own top-level advisors to know what was discussed?
This kind of private meeting is virtually unprecedented in the diplomatic world.
There was just the Russian translator. There was no American translator, nor were there any other American staff members who were taking part in those discussions. And that is a very unusual thing.
Not really. Not really at all. Joe Biden was always alone with President Xi. Just ask him.
I've spent an awful lot of time with Xi Jinping, president of China, more than I'm told than any other world leader has. And I spent over 25 hours alone with him over the period of the last 5 years, 7 years.
Alone. There's no freak out about how unusual that is. President Biden and President Xi. I don't trust President Biden to be alone and get the better of President Xi. Do you? President Xi is much better at leading China than Joe Biden is at leading America. What happened there? I'd like to know. I'm not saying that Joe Biden is a paid agent of China or that somehow he was co-opted by China. I'm not going to say that. However, you know, I saw a movie once called Manchurian Candidate. You were familiar with this? Kind of an interesting scenario. Great movie. That's Frank Sinatra on the left smoking the cigarette. They were brainwashed by the Chinese. And then they came back to America to do all kinds of awful things. What's happening now? 25 hours with President Xi, unaccounted for. And then Joe Biden shows up with Hunter Biden, all sheepish, on Air Force Two in Beijing. What do they have on Joe Biden? What do they have on Hunter Biden? Why are we in such a mess? I wonder. Don't you? Is this? Who knows?